Thanks for tuning in today. This is John, and then I'm going to cover setting up a tool offset, for instance, for your plate marker on your table. I'm going to do this because I have an upcoming project on my table, and I believe I'm going to be using that option. And last time I used it, I noticed that things weren't quite centered up the way they were supposed to when I went and I was trying to do some fancy details for a Cinderella carriage, if you noticed it. And when it went and did an inside pattern, and when the outside was cut, things were slightly off. Things weren't centered up, and so I need to fix that before I continue on. So in order to fix that, what you have to do is come under your driver software, under Tool, Configuration, Tools, Tool Library, and you'll notice your tools are listed here by turret, turret 1, and turret 2, and your plate marker, in my case, is turret number 2, but you have your X offset and your Y offset. If you go and look at the Torchmate manuals for setting up an offset, they recommend that you make a pierce with your plasma and then move your plate marker over until it drops inside of the hole that was made by the plasma. However, I've noticed that when I go and pierce with plasma, it's not a concentric circle. It's literally oblong or something, and I want a little more accurate reading. So what I'm going to do, and it's the way I recommend doing it if you want to get a more accurate reading, is to first use your plate marker, mark your table with a plus sign, then move your plasma torch over and line it up to the plus sign, and then set your offset, and then go ahead and test it. So when I say test it, what it'll do is it'll try to pierce inside of the center of that cross that you make, or the plus sign, and if you're accurate, it should be dead center. So first thing I'm going to do is undo that, is grab my node edit tool, hold down Control, and come and create a line here, and I want it about 1.5 inches long. Control D for duplicate, and I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees. Highlight both of these with a shift click, and then run Alt K, and again I always have align to last object selected. I'll just center these on each other, and then I'm going to group them, Control G. So this is going to be what my plate marker is going to do. And now let's go ahead and create a circle, and I'm going to make this circle 0.09 in size, no, 0.009 in size. That when I want to do a pierce with plasma, that's how I do it. It's not necessarily right or wrong, that's just how I do it. So with that highlighted, shift click this, Control K will center that on here. So that will be my plasma pierce, and the lines are for my plate marker. Okay, so now what we need to do is let's go ahead and drop this down. Nah, we don't need to do that yet. I'm going to highlight my plasma pierce, go up to Machine, Create Toolpath, Online, because I don't want any lead-ins, I don't want any offsets or anything. Basic cut, it will be my plasma. I'm going to go ahead and put 48 inches a minute. I may be doing this on a scrap piece of 1/4 inch or something. You could do it on thinner material, but that's just what I have there. So make sure there's no lead-ins or lead-outs, and it should be climbing in this case, and I'm going to say OK. And then I'm going to come up to View and Show Tool Diameter, get rid of that. Next I'm going to highlight my plus sign here and go in and create another online toolpath. So Machine, Create Toolpath, Online. And the reason why I don't use these buttons up here for doing this is because it's going to remember your last option, much like Control K and Alt K, and I'm selecting a different tool. So go the long way and go up to Machine, Create Toolpath. So I'm going up to my basic cut, I'm going to select my plate marker, and I'm not covering setup of the tools in this particular tutorial, so this is assuming you have it all set up. Feed rate for my plate marker, I think I liked it around 30 inches a minute last time I tried it. Maybe 35, but I noticed that if I go faster than that, I don't like the line that I get. I get a better line at 30 inches a minute for my table. So say OK to that. Now I'm going to take this and move it off to the side just a little bit. Let me move that back. What I'm trying to do is just look at my tool paths. So here are my tool paths, And you don't need to do what I'm about to do, delete the original code. At least I don't believe you have to. And I'm going to zero this up, and then with everything highlighted, click on my cut tool and click on this machining. Basically looks like the cut tool again. This allows me to save my G code, so I'm going to call this tool offset. As you can see, I already did this once, but that code was messed up anyway, so overwrite that file. I'm going to open up my driver software and just do a quick test. Before I do that, let me go just double check my layout sequence by list. So my layout is my plate marker first and then my plasma, which is what I wanted. So that's good. So if I open the G code, what I'm looking at is my tool that's selected. I'm going to hit start, and it should be plate marker first, and then it should switch to plasma. There we go, and it switched to plasma. It goes and cuts the little hole, and then it's done. So the code looks good. The only thing that I want to add in here is an all stop. Basically, after the plasma after the plate marker runs its code, I want to run a stop because I don't want it to continue on and pierce the hole yet. So what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and add that into the code real quick. The code to pause the program is going to be an M00, and you can see right here in this. So this T represents a tool or a turret that's being selected. Turret 2 is selected at the beginning, and this is my plate marker, and then turret 1 is selected, and this is my plasma. So right before my plasma fires, or maybe even before it moves to that point, I'm going to come and enter an M00, which is basically a program pause, and say Control S to save it, update toolpath, and close. So if you were to go and execute this, you should see it execute this, and then it with the plate marker, and then it should stop. There, program has been paused by M00. If I were to hit OK and then start again, it'll select the plasma and go and create that hole and finish off the program. So in case you want to mess around with G codes or M codes and need to look them up, you can always come up to the help in the driver software, pull up the user's guide, and you can scroll through this. There's hundreds of pages. If you want to get directly to the M codes, for instance, the quickest way is probably to look up M00. So Control F, M00, hit enter. You can see it's program pause, but if I hit enter a few times, you can get better descriptions of what the different M codes and G codes are. And if you can come and get, I went to the next M00, and you can see that I get a summarized version of what we were just looking at. So M00 or M01 in this case will both pause the table, and you can again look up other codes like coolant on, off, things like that, tool change, that kind of stuff. If you ever need to modify a post or anything like that from another, like Bobcat or something, for instance, you can come in here and use things like this tool change with some, tool change, switch to this tool and things like that. It's useful. So anyway, this is the program that I'm going to use then basically on my table, and I'm going to go ahead and go record the video of me now doing this. Now, one thing you have to realize is after I go and mark this with the plate marker, lining up my plasma is going to take some time. I'll speed up the video. It would be nice if I had my remote control working on it, or if I had a pendant. I don't have a pendant, but I do have a remote, but I was always having problems with it and gave up on it. So I'll just have to manually eyeball this, and it's going to take me some time. But I'll speed it up. You'll get the idea, and once the tool offset's done, I'll record that information as far as where the offset is, and I shouldn't have to do it again. Okay, so you can see I have multiple attempts. It's because my first test was, I believe, this one. And then the second test, no, I believe the first test was that one. Second test was this one, but I forgot to actually add the offset, change the offset, and so it actually pierced just left like that one. The third one I did this way, and you can see it's even further to the left, so I actually added or subtracted it wrong. And then the final test, I corrected my problem, and here's what I have. Here's the result I have. You can see that that's actually lined up quite well, and I think, to me, that's a better option of lining it up. Even though it does take longer, it's a better option of lining up how far offset your plate marker is compared to that of the torch, because the torch holes, as you can see, they're not perfectly circular. They may look like it in this video, but they're not. And so, to me, that's the better option. What I would like to do now is probably, well, first of all, I'm going to turn off my light. And you can see I have my laser on there, but my laser is not lined up quite perfectly either. So now that I have this point, I'm going to go back to this point and line up my laser. Okay, so I moved my torch back to the tool path where it was going to cut the circle and stopped it, and then I lined up my laser to that same point using all of those lines in that cut hole as a reference, and my laser was actually quite off too. So now it's everything's pointed where it should be. It's accurate, and I'm going to head back inside and finish up this video. Okay, so I'm back inside my house now, and what I'm going to do is just go ahead and open up the screenshot that I took inside my garage. And you'll notice that I'm in my tool library, and the plasma is set at 00 because that's how I originally configured my table, and my plate marker is set up in such a way it's 3.5164 on the X and just slightly off, like a 1/4 of an inch in the Y. So I'm saving this file for future reference. I also saved a setup file with this information in it, a new setup file, so I don't have to go and do this again. And unless I, obviously change the way my tool layout is. And you'll notice that if you were paying attention to my table, if you stand looking at my table from the side, from the view that I was showing you here just a second ago, my X0 is on the left, my X48 is on the right, and my plate marker sits to the right. So this is saying, in order for your plate marker to get to where the plasma 00 is, it has to go -3.5 and -1/4 inch on the Y, and then it will be at the point where 00 resides for the plasma. One thing you have to remember when cutting, when using your plate marker or anything tool offset, is there are certain parts on the table, at least in my case because I have only a 2x4, there are certain parts of the table, namely 1/4 inch off the bottom and 3.5 inches off the left side, that I cannot use both plate marker and plasma together because of this offset. So if I am ever cutting things that need the plate marker, I have to go and send it in at least 3.5 inches and 1/4 inch up off the bottom. But that's not too bad considering the size of my table, so I can live with that. For those of you that would actually like to see me doing something with the plate marker, and I personally would like to try it out myself. I've used it for some minor things, but this would be the most complicated thing I've used it on. I'm going to pull up this ornament, which looks like this, a Merry Christmas ornament. And this was provided by SignTorch out at plasmaspider.com. And if you're subscribed out there, you can get this for free. So you notice that the details are pretty thin. I mean, this ornament right now, I have it scaled to about 4 inches tall and about 3 inches wide, roughly. And if you zoom in, my grid is a 1/16 inch grid. You can see that some of these details are way smaller than a 1/16 of an inch. So this maybe would be an ornament that would work well. I mean, if you blew this up really large, you could easily cut this out with plasma, but you'd probably need a laser, and that might even be too fine before you'd obliterate all of the details. However, if we use a plate marker for the details on the inside and then cut the outside with the plasma, we may get a good result. So this is a test for me, and you guys can see the results that we get. So what I want to do is everything that is currently in black, which is the actual whole ornament, I would like to use with plasma. So what I'm going to do, sorry, not plasma, the plate marker. I'd like to fill it with the plate marker. So I'm going to duplicate this, Control D, and I'm going to Control B for break it apart, and let me do Alt S to toggle the show fill. I'm deleting everything on the inside, and what I want to do is I want to expand this a little bit, and all of these, this stroke and fill tool, so all of these things that I'm doing are in other tutorials. So I want to expand this 1/8 of an inch around, all the way around, so 1/4 inch overall, so 0.25. Make it a little bigger, basic weld, and recenter that now. Control K. So now that I've centered that, if you come in here and were to measure this line from point A to point B, you'll see that we're 1/8 of an inch. So I want to do all the detail on the inside and then cut it out 1/8 of an inch bigger with the plasma on the outside. So the very first thing that I'm going to do is highlight this outside, machine, create toolpath, mail. The material I have out there, I think I'm going to cut it at about 110 inches a minute. I believe it's 1/8 inch, and we will do a lead in and everything, so let me just make sure that the tool is plasma, which it is. And then we're going to notice that you can see the toolpath diameter. That's Alt N under View, Show Toolpath Diameter. So I'll deselect that for now. Now I'm going to select the inside of this, and I'm going to come in here and do Machine, Create Toolpath, Fill. So Fill tool, I want to make sure that I have plate marker selected, and I think I'm going to move it about 35 inches a minute. Fill type, I don't know exactly which one I want to do, but I think let's go ahead and do a line sweep where we pick up at the end of the line. And let's just say, I'm going to not do anything with the overlap, but let's go ahead and just say, I don't know, 21.5 degree angle, just to kind of give it a little spice. So make sure that we don't have any lead-ins or outs selected for this. And once we say OK, you can see the fill pattern that this is going to be doing. If I do an Alt N to show the tool diameters, you can see that that actually looks like it may come out pretty well. Now I was going to cut this originally at just another inch shorter, but the details were being lost. Like you can see even right here, there's a little bit of detail being lost with the plate marker, even as small as the curve for width of the tool diameter it is, but that's okay. So let's go ahead and I'm going to do Alt N so that's not in our way, and I'm going to deselect the tool paths. Well, let me just move everything 0, 0. I'm going to oops. Let me just get rid of it to make it easy. Let's move this to 0, 0. And layout sequence by list. I just want to make sure my plasma is selected last. You'll notice that I only have one toolpath for this whole thing, well, for the plate marker, and then one for the plasma, and it is in the correct order. So I'm going to go ahead and actually I need to rotate this 90 degrees in order to fit on my table out there correctly, and so we'll just zero this out again, X and Y, and now we're with everything highlighted. Click on our what I call the machine tool. They call it the cut tool. We'll call this Santa ornament. And let's go get a video of this in action. I did not zero this in the right location, so it was actually, instead of cutting the part down here, it wants to cut it up here, and it's about to go off the table, and I didn't want to mess anything up, so I actually stopped it early. But as you can see, there's actually some pretty good detail in there. I am going to go ahead and try this again. I just need to find another section of the plate that actually is the right size, and I'll start it up again. Alright, let's see if we can get some detail as to how this went. Now, up here, I did not grind off any mill scale after doing the plate marker, just so you could see the detail and everything before, kind of a before and after. Down here I did grind off the mill scale, and, well, most of it, not all of it. You'll notice up here the pattern is all messed up because I let it run into the old ornament. And there is some fine-tuning I think I need to do on the plate marker, meaning when it goes to pick up, I think I need to put in just a slight delay so that it doesn't fire again so quickly. But other than that, I'm actually really pleased with the way this came out. This is the first real thing I've cut with this kind of detail, and as you can see, it looks like it's all centered up just fine, about an 1/8 inch gap all the way around. The plate was bowed and I had to push it down, so I think I got it a little off right here when I did that, but I'm actually really pleased with it. I'm going to have to see what kind of things I can do with this now. I have done some projects with it, but I'm going to really see what I can do now. I'm going to actually have to go show this to my wife, and I bet she's going to come up with a lot of different projects. Thanks for watching.